Hello, and welcome to the Tuesday Night Music Show with superstar DJs Howie Darkstar and swinging Pastor Jay Brannan from Temecula, California.
What up?
What's going on?
Not a whole lot. Tuesday.
It's
85 degrees here today. A little warm, you know?
Yeah, well, we didn't have that
Hair's
problem
getting
here.
weird. No, it's going to be 60 and rainy on Friday, but 87, 88 tomorrow. It's like, come on, guys. It's only March 1st.
California problems.
Yeah.
California. In the meantime,
First
I'm
world
getting yelled
problems.
at for spray painting in the house because I can't do it outside because it's 31 degrees. You know, I did a video today where I was talking about, actually a video I did yesterday, talking about kind of my mixing style. And it's not beat mix, start at this BPM, go to this BPM. I don't do that. We've talked about that before. I kind of finally figured out how to explain it. I thought maybe, perhaps, I don't know. You have to watch the video and tell me if you understand what I'm talking about. But I gave an example of a mix that I do where I do like 3 dumb songs for like family hour that work very well. I'm doing, I call it my twist and shout mix. I do Chubby Checkers, the twist, and then I go to Beatles twist and shout, and then I go to Otis Day in the Nights from Animal House shout. You know, so it's that whole thing.
Right.
It's always been incredibly effective.
Yeah.
And obviously the keys aren't the same. The
Right.
BPMs are nowhere near each other.
Nope.
But I'm able to mix it in a way that works well using, little breaks in songs or the outro of songs and things of that nature where the continuity stays. I also talked about how in the old days, when I first started doing this with mobiles and records and mostly 45s and really terrible turntables, by the way, that we couldn't really rely a lot on having a fantastic mix. You know, you don't want dead air, of course, but you didn't have this great mix. So what you had to do is rely on great songs. And you had to play progressively better songs in a set to keep people's attention, which reflects how I DJ today with all of the tools that I have available to me. I still use those techniques because I find them effective. So the reason I'm bringing all this up is because I got to thinking, and I thought it'd be an interesting topic, especially with Jay here. How perhaps if you start out with all these great tools, could it possibly hinder you as a DJ? Simply because you never had to make do and you never had to work something out for yourself. Everything's kind of there and easy. Would it be easier to start out as a DJ with some limitations, with some things that throttle you a little bit, where you have to kind of find some solutions to problems and overcome them? Would that be better training as somebody who wanted to make a career as a DJ, or should they just be starting out with the best of the best and go with it? Does that make any sense?
It totally makes sense.
It does. It reminds me of my apprenticeship days, you know, as a machinist. And I remember my master that was, you know, because I was just an apprentice, and he actually made me, I wasn't allowed to use, you know, like the milling machines or the lathes. He said, first you have to learn to make it by hand with hand tools. Then I'll let you. And I was like,
Why would I bother doing that? But
no, I mean, that was my first thought.
your first thought. Yeah, right. Why would you do that?
He was right. He was right in that instance. So
Sure. No, it makes complete sense. And I'm thinking Jay from the music world is the guitar guy. And I mean, think about a guy who starts off with all this great equipment and this awesome guitar versus the guy who starts out with the guitar with a slightly not so great neck and maybe it doesn't tune so well. Maybe that guy who really wants it really bad plays on that guitar for a long time and gets really good at it, like really good at it on this crap guitar that's not set up very well, and then steps into a really cool guitar and he just runs with it. It's nothing to him.
Yeah, I think it's that litmus test of how much are you willing to suffer.
Yeah, right.
You know, like, because as you were saying it, I couldn't help but think, even before Howie said anything, you know, if I was becoming a contractor, do I really need to build my first house with hand tools when I have power tools?
Yeah.
No, because it's
Right.
not going to make sense down the road. As a DJ, when I first got on Serato and had a laptop and could find songs instantaneously, my big fear before I got there was
He's choking up just
Excuse
thinking
me.
about it. He's having flashbacks thinking of his fear. It's making him choke, and I'm probably making him choke more by saying that.
seriously, excuse me, everyone. And I thought it would almost lessen the skill set because you had to work.
See, he can't even think about it. It's traumatizing. It's PTSD. This is what it looks like.
I think it's cilantro.
It could be all those crazy shakes you do.
Okay, I'm sorry. We can talk about something else if it's that upsetting.
No, I'm good. Eyes are watery, but I'm good. And it was the exact opposite because I knew where everything was. I'm like, well, what do I do now? I think if you've got tools that make your job easier, you should learn them, but I think you should have a fallback. But with DJing, you can't generally get a new DJ and say, learn on virtual, but next week we're going to go over CDs. Because the chances are they're never going to see a CD.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I can see Howie's example of, hey, just in case the power goes out at the job, you're going to have to use this handsaw. Or, you know, you have a nail gun, but I'd like you to take these 10 nails and nail them in, you know, a couple of tries straight. I think those are good litmus tests, and I think they're good underlying talent tests. But when it comes to DJing, it's such a different world now with technology.
Oh, it is. It is.
I mean, I found this.
Yeah.
You know, this is from July of 2000.
Uh-huh.
And going through like the different lights and the DJ gear, and it's all CD, dual CD players.
Sure.
You know, and you look at that and go, wow, we really had to work for this stuff, you know, and it was a different realm. But now with the technology as it is, you know, I think as we get older, we get that, like, these young whippersnappers don't know what it was like. Well, you could say that about me in 96, because I didn't know what it was like to crate dig for albums. I had to do it for CDs. I didn't have to carry Technique 1200s around. Am I not a good DJ because I didn't have the original stuff? Yeah.
No, but it's not suggesting that you can't be a good DJ if you don't do this.
No. But I'm saying, like, not a good DJ on the level of talent or quality, but
No.
like,
That's not
part of the
what I'm-
club of, you know, you weren't there. Like, because of the Rev 7 in Vegas this past week, that was a big topic of, like, I started with turntables.
Well,
And
I
it
didn't.
was, you know,
I didn't mean it like that. What I meant to say was kind of what Howie said. And I'm not suggesting if you didn't do, I would never be that guy. You know me. I'm not that guy. You don't have to.
Right.
have
no, you're not.
reference
And I wasn't even saying that
Right.
you would be that guy or that I would be that guy. But I think when you say, should you have some handicap? Here, I'll give you an example. If you hit the space bar in Serato, it wipes out the two waveforms. If I was turning a DJ now with a laptop, I would hit the space bar and say, okay, instead of seeing when the songs are matched by the lines on the screen, do it with your ear.
Sure.
And I think you can train that and give them that sense. It's, you know, you and I have talked about taking two of the same song and mixing them. And it sounds like such a stupid thing till you do it. So I don't think you need obstacles as much as maybe where the pitfalls can come in as a DJ, which are Serato face, you get stuck watching waveforms, or you don't know. Like when you were talking about those bangers, I'm like, wow, playing those bangers so early in the night, that's really intriguing. Like I think of Shout as a last song of the night, but I also heard you say, I find good spots to mix it. I'd almost open with Shout, and then at that breakdown, you know, that way, and I'm thinking in my head, that'd be a great spot to bring in like Twist and Shout by the Beatles and almost run the BPMs down.
Well, it's interesting.
And then start over and come up.
It's interesting you say that because in the video, and I don't know if I mentioned this wrong. If I'm repeating myself, forgive me. I was talking about the mix, and then people wanted me to put that mix like I did it on Mixcloud. That's what they wanted me to do, in the comment section. So today in my video, I talked about why I don't want to put it on Mixcloud. The reason I don't want to put it on Mixcloud is because I don't want you to be me. I don't want you to do it the way I did it. What I would like you to do is take those 3 songs, if it's interesting enough to you, and figure out how to put them together in your way. That's what I think would be more serving as somebody here on YouTube trying to help people than to just force feed it or spoon feed it to people. Then they all do it exactly like I do it, and they've learned nothing except a cool set they can play. No, take those 3 tracks and figure out how you'd like to put them together. Exactly what you're saying, Jay. Exactly what you're saying. Yeah. Figure out how it's going to work in front of your audience. Make it your own. Yeah.
Yeah. And like Jay wants to start with a different song. He likes those 3 songs, but he has a different pick. And that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And maybe he wants to do a different, because there are like a few different versions of Chubby Checkers Twist. One I think has a killer backbeat, so I use it.
Right.
I don't know if there are alternate versions of the Beatles Twist and Shout, but I know the Isley.
I don't think so.
I know the Isley Brothers do it, and that one's popular. So you could do that one instead. And I talked about doing Shout by Oldest Day in the Nights.
That's a good version, though. Most people run to the Isley Brothers. Even I do.
Right.
But
and
I do like the
about? Yeah. But you could replace that too. I'm just telling you what I find effective. It doesn't. I mean, you could do something completely different. All I'm saying is, and they're gonna mix different,
right?
Because they got different intros and stuff. You make it yours, instead of me just giving it to you. And I think what I was thinking about more than anything else with this, thinking about mixing the way I did out of necessity at the time, instead of relying on the beat mix to kind of trick people into sticking around. I had to progressively just play better songs. I had to really have a very keen sense of what was going to work well for my audience, and play those songs accordingly. I could, and back then I wasn't starting off with my best song. I was starting off with my worst song and holding my stuff back. Like, now I do it different, like you're talking about. I start with my best song and challenge myself. It's fun. But you guys, okay, so a little, it's not even a sidetrack. It's a bridge into the next thing. Part of this I want to talk about. Howie.
Yes, sir.
You got a book that you were showing us off camera that looks really familiar.
Very familiar. Yes, I heard you talking about a book that you had lent to Jay, and you mentioned it several times, and this came the other day.
Yeah.
But what was shocking to me is the title is Last Night, a DJ Saved My Life. And the subtitle is The History of the Disc Jockey. Now look at it sideways. It's 606 pages. I was like a little taken back and a little intimidated. And I thumbed through a little and I'm like, yeah, this is something I could read. I mean, then maybe I can keep up with you and Jay.
Well, I loaned Jay the book 14 years ago, and I know he'll give it back when he's done with it.
It's a lot of pages.
It's a lot of pages. It is.
And I don't want to give you a lot of spoilers, Howie.
Yeah, don't tell me how it ends.
Yeah, I don't want to give you a lot of spoilers here. But there are sections in there where they're talking about these South Bronx DJs and how they were just making things work. Yeah. They didn't have the tools, but they had an idea of what they wanted to do, and they just made it work with whatever was available to them.
Exactly.
Plugging into light poles and all that.
Yeah, they were literally.
I would love to revisit that, though. I would love to have been a fly on the wall to see guys that weighed 80 pounds wet, carrying 150 pounds of gear on their back, running forks into electrical poles and running Radio Shack extension cords for 300 feet.
Yeah,
and then getting so excited to drop a beat with nothing in front of them but air. And it's like,
I I actually saw it firsthand in Washington Square Park, when I had arrived early for my gig at Max's Kansas City, your favorite name of a club ever. But I stopped by and they were so mellow and everybody was having such a good time, but they had quite the posse. It was like 8 guys that had each guy carried something, and the police were cool because they would let them take that cover plate off. And it wasn't like every time they tapped in, behind the cover plate, they had an outlet that they had put there because they would be there. They were there every weekend. Yeah. And the police are like, everybody's cool. We're not going to break this up.
Yeah. I don't think people, the more I think about it, Brian, I don't think it's only mixing those songs, but there's a certain magic. I was talking with Mike Marquez last week about you would have actually loved to have been on this conversation. It was all about Larry Levan and David Mancuso and the vibe, and it's not about the mix. And just, here's a good example, just very simple. If you're a DJ who traditionally has gotten in this late in the game or new to it, you're probably playing all music you're buying online that's perfect 4/4 beat. Just take a couple of random disco tracks and then sit there and chase the drums. Because even for me, I was like, I didn't start with 4/4, so I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to slam this. This is 123, this is 120, but I can't possibly match with the old CDJ buttons that would go. It's like, oh no, I missed it.
Right.
So maybe that's something to consider. Well, just mix live music. Just try mixing, the famous, what is it, Cool in the Gang Ladies Night starts at 109, ends at 120. Drummer just keeps getting more excited, and all of a sudden you're like, how did we get to 120 so fast?
The interesting thing to me is that, not hating on anybody here. Don't take this the wrong way. I'm not suggesting you should have to do this or you should act like this or think like this. But on social media, when that new Pioneer controller, the whatever the hell it's called,
the Rev 7
dropped, everybody lost their damn minds.
No, like you don't know. And you don't know.
Yeah. And the pre-orders are out just out of this world on this stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's so much focus on the equipment. I can remember a time, okay? I can remember a time when we would get excited about a record.
Yeah.
Oh. No. We got to have this record.
That was the topic last week, was no one here is talking about music. It's all about gear.
If I had this record, I could mix this record in with this. What I mixed it on, that's my problem. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but at the time didn't you all have the same gear? Wasn't it all like we all have these Technique 1200 turntables? We all have a mixer.
No, we did not all have the same gear, and that's my point.
Oh, what was it turntable versus CD, or was it?
Well, way back, it was a record player, but it wasn't necessarily a Technics 1200. You got to remember that there was. It's just like anything else. There's the new Pioneer, whatever you said, thing, and there's also some, Wang Chung Behringer thing out there. They're not the same. Right. And when it comes to record players, you got to remember, man, we take. The CD thing, it was wonderful for me when I first got it, even before I had pitch controls on it or anything else, because I knew I could cue by pressing the number and saying, okay, on track 2, when I press play, it would play. On record players, what was great about 1200s, if you don't know why that was cool, they tracked really nice if you had the right cart and needle on them, but the platter sped up fast. Right. So you could cue a record and you could hit the start button and the track or whatever you wanted, even if you were just doing blends, it was probably close to an eighth of a turn or less before it got up to speed. Now, the turntables that I was using most of the time were not like that. They were not quartz drive. They were not direct drive. They were belt drive. And it usually took about a revolution and a half to get the record up to speed. But I compensated for that big time. I had to count it, or I had to give it a little push when I spun it. And that's
Because
just
you
what I
had
had.
to. Yeah.
I was more worried about, really me, I was more worried about having the right record than I was the right turntables. Yes, it would have been wonderful to have 1200s. Everyone aspired to have them.
Yeah.
But the records were the important thing. And
They really were.
what you played them on was secondary. And geez, I think about little things that I did, just dumb things I did to try to make something cool, like creative, you know? I remember one time I was doing this recurring gig for a fire department. It was a volunteer fire department. They hired me every year. And one year they said, we'd like to have karaoke. And they offered to pay, you know, decent amount for it. How the hell am I going to do this? I went out and I bought, I think it was like a 12-inch television, like a tube television. And then I bought one of those old tube TV wall hangers. I drilled holes in it and I put a clamp on it and hung it from my trussing system.
Oh,
and then I ran an RCA just video cable, just RCA cable out of the video of this television to a little my DVD player that I had, my first DVD player I had. And I bought some Pioneer, I think they were Pioneer, maybe they weren't, karaoke DVDs off of like eBay. I paid up for them, but it was a system I built to make this happen. And it worked. And they loved it. Just ran some extra mics out of it. It was hokey as hell. But I did it because necessity is the mother of invention.
But at the time, it wasn't hokey. It was unique and different. They hadn't seen it before.
No, they were fine with it. They thought it was amazing. Yeah. I had a little monitor for them to read off of to, you know, and then the audience could see a thing because it was all videos.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And the words did not sync up with the beat, so it was hilarious. I mean, the audience was just dying laughing because everybody was singing like 4 beats or 3 beats behind. It was funny. They weren't very good DVDs, or maybe my DVD player didn't track audio and video right. I don't know. But even, you know, just dumb things like that, I'm thinking about how cool is that? It's the equivalence. It would be the equivalent of, and this is a terrible thing to even suggest, but it would be the equivalent of all of a sudden you got to play a track, you don't have it, it's vital you play it, and you plug your stupid phone into your mixing board and you play the track off the internet. It's a terrible thing to suggest, but it's the equivalent of that, making stuff happen.
Yeah.
Just out of necessity, got to make it happen.
Right.
Those are the, and the other thing I guess I'm thinking about is what I was getting at with all this monologuing I'm doing here is, you know, if somebody really was genuinely interested in DJing and not just gear, don't you think they would like research it and just put something together that would make it happen for them instead of just
some would
feel like, oh, I have to have this equipment to do it. That's fine, but to me, it'd be like the equivalence, Jay, of back in the day. A kid had to have like this hot, like Fender Strat to play guitar. Nothing else was going to do.
Right.
They had to have the Strat. Well, if you really wanted to play guitar that bad, you got the Harmony out of the Sears catalog.
Yeah.
And you could have played right now.
And that's the famous tale. And by the way, because it plays into you, you know, people look around and they say, oh, I need this because with this tool, I can get this outcome.
Right.
People are really impressed with the guitar playing of Prince. And they're like, look, he's playing an old Fender, probably a 1952 Telly worth of $10 million. No, he was playing a Hohner.
Yeah.
Telecaster copy. So, lesson for you kids out there, it's never the instrument. It's always the player.
Yeah.
Eric Clapton on any guitar that I own or you own or Howie owns sounds exactly like Eric Clapton. So does Eddie Van Halen. So does everyone. Because it's the talent in the instrument. But you're right. Everyone wants the easy way out. We grew up in different eras. You know, I saw a guitar the other day online that's worth $10,000. I owned one. You know what I paid for it back in the day? I paid $50 for it.
Wow.
Because back then it was in a pawn shop. Well,
Right.
the New York Dolls, Johnny Thunders played 57, 58, 59 Les Paul Juniors in the TV yellow.
Mm-hmm.
And he probably picked them up in New York City for $30, $50, $100.
You know what I was thinking about,
Those
Jay?
guitars today are worth tens of thousands.
Well, okay, Jay, how about, and you probably know more about this than I do because I can't recall what it's called, but Brian May's guitar, is it called Big Red or something like that?
Yes. Or the this Red Special.
Red Special.
That's it. The Red Special.
Do you know this? Does anybody here know the story on that?
100%. Yeah.
Jay, go ahead.
It's an old table. He and his father, he didn't have the money to buy a guitar, so he and his father built the Red Special.
Yep.
The neck is out of a fire mantelpiece. The body's out of an old table. They wound the pickups and built them themselves. They did the fretboard. The dots on the fretboard are buttons that his mother shaved down so they would fit as dots on the neck. Oh, it is, because he's like, I couldn't afford what I wanted, so I built it. And the best part about it is he still plays the Red Special on stage. It's the one he built.
Yeah.
And by the way, side note, for those of you that don't know this, in case you're wondering how a young Brian May and his father could have pulled this off, Brian May, the most amazing guitar player from Queen, if you want to be technical, when you meet him, you refer to him as doctor because he has a PhD.
2 of them he has.
2. One of them, I believe, is in astrophysics.
Astrophysics.
And the other is in, I believe, either astronomy or something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's
astronomy's a
written
big
2
one.
books.
By the way, if you meet 2 members from Bad Religion, you can call them both doctor too.
Mm-hmm.
So the lead singer's got his PhD and he teaches out of Berkeley. Yeah, it's side facts. But yeah, Brian May took the bull by the horns and said, this is what I want, and we can't afford it, so screw it. I'll make it.
I'll make it because it's necessities.
And he's the only one. There is no other story that I know of in music where someone said, I want to be a violinist. I'll make one.
I'll make a violin.
I'm sure there's a story somewhere. But the infamous one is that. I mean, nobody created a piano at home. People messed around with things to get sound. But Brian May literally, and his setup has not changed. He plays with a 5-cent piece.
I'll bet you there was a handsaw involved.
Well, I would assume there was.
Before you say that, I'm thinking, going back to the DJ, I'm thinking about Grandmaster Flash, how he was doing.
Who?
I don't know, some guy.
Some guy.
He had this thing he called the peekaboo. You ever heard the peekaboo?
No.
He wanted to have a way to listen to a record over here while a record was playing over here. So he tore his mixing board apart and put some toggle switches in it. He called it the peekaboo method, where he could do a little peek in to see what this record was doing while this record was playing. He invented Q.
That's brilliant.
He invented Q.
Mother,
that is like
mother of necessity.
Wow. Pre-fade listen. That's peekaboo. And that's Grandmaster Flash, dude.
You'll understand this.
Oh my God.
And Howie will understand this, and I think most people, but there is an age cutoff. I'm not hating on Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Millennial, whatever.
No,
I'm just saying there's a cutoff point where you don't understand what I'm saying right now. And that is, we would watch Grandmaster Flash and be mesmerized and appreciative.
Mm-hmm.
But there is an age group that would go, are you kidding me? He can't touch Qbert. I remember being in a guitar store.
I disagree.
This one
I think he's that good.
What's that?
I think Flash is that good.
But he's not Qbert. Qbert has a certain flash and performance-wise.
He's a really nice guy, but his style, quite frankly, annoys me. I can't listen to him for more than 3 minutes at a time. I want to.
No, but I'm saying it's the difference between Chuck Berry and Eddie Van Halen.
Okay.
That's how I view Flash and Qbert.
All right.
So the point is this. Famously, Robin Trower once said, if you like what I'm doing, don't listen to me.
Right.
Listen to who
people I like listen to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there is that sense of throwback. If I went to Eric Clapton, Eddie Van, every Brian May, every rock guitarist on the planet today, owes a debt of gratitude to a man named Robert Johnson.
Robert Johnson. I knew
Robert Johnson had one album. There's 2 pictures that are known of him.
Mm-hmm.
There's a great story of the Crossroads where he sold his soul to the devil.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's him on guitar singing. That's all we have of that man. But he is credited by every famous rock star, every famous guitar player, every famous band who ever made a dime owes a debt of gratitude to somebody that started the ball rolling. I think of Flash, Kool Herc, Jazzy J, different people as the guys that got this thing started that actually said, look, if I go wiki, 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 it's cool. You're supposed to start somewhere and have people pick up the mantle, the torch, and run further.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck Berry, without Chuck Berry, you don't have the Beatles.
Well, hold on a second, because I was thinking about that too. You know, as far as the wiki thing goes, I don't think they really did the wiki thing. Wiki thing was just kind of a byproduct of some of the loops they were doing. It wasn't like, I mean, that was just there because they were trying to do quick mix, and sometimes the fader would hit, and it sounded kind of cool, but it didn't have to be in there.
But I'm saying now it's like you have to be an aficionado or appreciative of listening to what they did with what they had. And I think that's the point that gets lost in translation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I've said this to many, many people who say, look, I can play this, but you didn't write it. You didn't create it.
Mm.
I could watch a Grandmaster Flash video and spend hours and hours and hours and eventually go to you, hey, Brian, check it out. Look, and show you a routine that Flash does. And you could say, wow, that's the same as him. It took me hours and hours and hours, but all I did was copy it.
Exactly.
It's like me painting the Mona Lisa. I didn't create the Mona Lisa. I copied it.
Well,
I think that's what needs to be understood sometimes.
You're right. And here's
you need a
what
foundation.
Here's what I see a lot in our world today. I see a lot of people looking at let's just take Qbert, for example, because you brought him up.
Right.
I see a lot of people looking at Qbert and saying, hey, I like what Qbert does. I think I can do it better. So I'm going to emulate what he does. And then I'm going to be even faster than he is. Like that seems to be the am I hitting the right word here? Aspiration of a lot of DJs. This is the kind of thing that they aspire to do.
Or any artist. I mean, let's face it, we stand on the shoulders of giants here.
But don't you think it's more interesting? And maybe it's just me, but I feel like it's more interesting for somebody to say, well, that's pretty cool, but how about if we did this instead?
Well, Jay said that in the beginning of the show, where he would start with a different song out of your trilogy and build slow.
My brain went right to when you said that. I was like, wow, that's eating dessert before dinner for me, because, you know, in my 40 minute dance set for the whole night, what I'm trying to accomplish is building to those shout tracks. But I'm like, as you're talking, I'm like, okay, what if I'm Brian? If I'm at Brian's
I'm blowing
wedding,
him in the first 20 minutes of my gig, because I am.
Brian's like, here's what you have to play in the beginning. Okay, well, to be honest with you, none of them really match. So if I play Otis Day and the Knights, or even Isley Brothers, I can mix out when it gets the wait a minute, and it goes a little silent with the audience. Boom, dun, 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 and excuse me, and go right into the Beatles.
Sure.
Or La Bamba.
Sure.
And then go into Twist and do, you know, just, but I think because we're programmed to think of programming. I asked that famous question last week to a bunch of DJs. I said, if I could make you the best mixer or the best programmer, which would you be? I was stunned how many young DJs said the best mixer.
Right.
Yeah, but we had done a thing months ago where we had all picked programming.
No, I know that. But that's my point, Howie.
Yeah.
When I talked to the older 40, 50, 60-year-old DJs, without fail, they all said programmer. Right. Chris Cox, programmer. Warren Peace, programmer. Right. Darude, programmer. Dave Ade. I asked Dave Ade, Grammy Award winning.
Right.
And without missing a beat, programmer.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's, and again, I'm not disparaging of age, but I think there's a different mentality when you grow up with cable TV and Netflix and an iPhone in your pocket. It's very difficult to understand what it's like to not have those things because they're just common. The
Well,
technology of today for
yeah.
DJs is just common.
See what I'm thinking about and what I'm talking about. I think I was a little misunderstood here, but I'll put it in 80s music terms for you. Let's say that I'm listening to Duran Duran and I'm listening to Thompson Twins and Human League and Culture Club and all these fantastic
Good party.
Yeah, all these fantastic second British invasion artists that are happening in synth pop, right?
Yep.
And I'm saying to myself, hey, I want to do something just like that. And I started a cover band of those songs, or a band that does songs exactly like that, or in the the vein of those acts.
Right.
And you know what? I probably won't do much because that's been done already. However, if I'm, let's say, a different group of dudes and say, let's call ourselves Scritti Politti and drop Perfect Way, which is nothing like any of those songs.
Yeah.
It's kind of, but not. I mean, they reinvented the whole thing. They weren't like Me Too or, hey, I'm going to do a better version of Hungry Like the Wolf. They did something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think you could argue Level 42 did the same thing.
Level 42 did, they're their own thing, you know?
Yeah.
Geez. And Excess was their own thing. I mean, there are a lot of rock bands out there. Yeah.
You know, Bauhaus, Love and Rockets. I mean...
that's kind of what I'm getting at, though. I mean, there's a lot of Me Too guys out there, or hey, I can do it better than you. But I like the guys who are like, I'm going to just reinvent the wheel, and I'm going to do something no one's ever done before. I'm going to be unique. Now, you can be different and suck. There's a lot of that. Yeah, but if you can be different and great, oh my gosh,
that's not easy.
Yeah.
And you're never going to know until you try. If you stay in that safe zone and you just do the whole Me Too thing, I'm going to do what Kubert does, but better, or what Guetta does, but better, or what Day by Day does, or better, whatever, whoever your guy is, you're just another Me Too.
Right.
And it's okay to carry it on and bring it to the next level, but it's so much more interesting to me to just say, I'm going to start from scratch here and do this and get an audience for it. I think that is cool.
Well, I don't know if new DJs, and again, it's not an age thing specifically. It's just when you got in the game. I think there's a generation of newer DJs, and the word growth isn't on their radar or agenda.
Well,
there is no, like, I used to sit there and write down my mixes at gigs when I used CDs if I had a good night, but I would write them down every night because I'm like, I've got to remember some of these gems and look at it the next day and be like, oh, or I'd put a star next to it. Like the crowd blew up when I went from, Sexy Back into this, or I did, Celia Cruz into Staying Alive, or whatever I did. I try to make mental notes so I remember this stuff, because with CDs, what was I going to do? Put the two CDs next to each other and hope I remembered? Well, I had to earn those kind of stripes.
And hey, now that you say that, what technology are you using now for when you have?
Oh, I've got 100 iPhone photos where I take a photo of the two tracks so I can call them back and say, oh, damn, I forgot I did those two tracks.
Yeah.
Guess who adopted that? Me.
Yeah.
I got him on my phone.
You have to. But I mean, that's such a great, where you're going with the technology, Brian, and looking at the past a little bit and saying, because we had this, there is ways to benefit from it now. I Shazam everything, and it allows me to go, wait a second, I used to not really play Sly and the Family Stone, but now I bought, Play Me a Simple Song, which is a highly sampled track, but I didn't know the original track. So I bought it, and now I have it.
That's not what I wasn't suggesting that the old guys are better. We had
No. I'm not saying that. I'm trying to allude to how do you use things. You can still better yourself by stepping out of your comfort zone, and just like you doing dessert before dinner, because those are bangers that and I think most people watching this would agree. The tracks you named are what most of us would consider after cake cutting, well after dinner bangers at an event, not right out of the gate. Like, that's ballsy to do that out of the gate. Well, you remember in the 90s when you opened every event with Celebration? And I used to hate that because I'm like, where am I going from here? I'm at 125 BPM, and I
We are
got nowhere
family
to run.
sister sledge. That's where you go from there.
But you're still
I'm just
dropping
saying.
back a little bit. No. And I had tracks, but I hated starting high because I do just what you mentioned that you don't do. I like starting at 100 or 80 or 90 or 110 and climbing.
I know you
And
do, and most do. That's the general philosophy that everyone has now. This is the rules. This is how you must do it.
No, it's not the rules.
Way.
It's just for me. I find it helps to build anticipation.
Kind of is. Most DJs do that.
Oh no, and they do it because it's the right way to do it. But they're also looking,
Of course it is. No, it's that's how most people do it, and it's just I'm not suggesting
until I said it. It was like, and it doesn't make it wrong. Now I say it, and it's like, well, yeah, of course this is wrong.
No, it's not wrong. It's what everyone does, and that's why it's weird when you do something different. And my argument was this, and we're talking about two different things at the same time here, so it's getting a little confusing. I'm talking about if you really love music and you really love DJing and you really love presenting music to people, and you're thinking that you have to have the Rev 7 to make this happen, you don't want it that bad. There are other ways you can do this. If you're really passionate about it and you really want to try something, and if you have an idea in your head, you're thinking, I want to do this thing, but I can't have a Rev 7 right now because they're on back order. So I guess I can't do this thing. You're a fool, because you can do all kinds of neat stuff to make it happen. There's all these like programs you can do it with. Just download the damn thing. If you're that interested, just download the damn thing. If you're just interested in toys, that's fine too. But just understand, you're a toy whore. That's what you are. There are other things you could be doing to make this mix happen that you have in your head.
Right. I don't know that anyone. I think people look at this as candy, and there's this.
It is.
'Cause when I asked everyone last week, I'm like, they're like, yeah, man, what do you think? I'm like, it's cool, but I don't kind of get the hype. They're like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't get the hype. Well, what but I mean, you work with Pioneer. I'm like, I know I would do. And I knew about this product a long time ago. But I didn't think it would hit you guys, meaning mobile DJs, the way it has. Like, what's behind it? Like, dude, it's just cool. And I almost think it's that new mentality of like, iPhone 13, I'm getting it. You have an iPhone 12. Yeah, I know, but the 13's like, there's this new, and it's not toy whore as much as I got to have the newest, greatest thing.
It's like Mac holes. It's the same thing. They got to have the newest iPhone all the time. They got to have.
But they'll argue why. They can argue why with an iPhone. I'm getting a Mac. I'm getting a 13 Pro Max, and I'll tell you exactly why. Because I need a better camera, and I need a better video camera, and I need more storage on my phone, and I can get it and save $400. Like I can explain the purpose of the purchase.
No. I'm not suggesting.
No one could explain this to me. Everyone's like, dude, I just got to have it. I'm like,
right.
So there's no particular reason you have to have it. You want it. You don't.
You see an application for it, so you want to get it.
Right.
But correct me if I'm wrong. You're not going to stand in line overnight for it.
No.
That's what I'm talking about.
You don't appreciate a concert till you have. When you're at 10 o'clock in the night and at 7 o'clock the next morning or 9 o'clock the next morning, the lady hands you the 2 tickets to see Aerosmith at the Boston Garden in 1983, and it's February, and you're seeing them in late April. You really appreciate that show because by the time you get there, you remember just how cold it was when you stood on Causeway Street overnight versus sitting here on my iPhone for $1,000, a phone for $1,000, and going, oh my goodness, this band's on tour. Click, 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 click. I'm going.
I find it disappointing, and I
find it disappointing that Silk Sonic is $200 a ticket at the cheapest price. That Bruno Mars, Anderson .Paak thing. If you guys want the world to hear your music, charge $20. Be like Pearl Jam.
Thank you, Pastor Jay. I appreciate that. It's a good PSA. I was going to say that I find it disappointing sometimes when I go on my social media feed and I see DJs who I know them personally. I know that they kind of know what they're doing. I mean, they have successful businesses. They've been doing it for a long time. They can talk the talk with me when we sit down and talk. And they're talking more about new gear than they are about tunes.
No one talks music. How many shows have you and I been to where we end up at 3 a.m. at a bar with 10 other people and it's non-stop music?
Never.
I beg to differ with you on that.
If you and I are doing it, that's one thing.
That's my
we
point.
We don't
It's
normally have anybody else.
No,
with us
people
doing
want to
it.
talk gear, but that's where you and I and Tom and Carol and Mike and all those guys started showing up. And it was like, oh man, I played this track last week, and boom, like sharks and bloody water.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh, I would play this. And I'm like, seriously? Like the takeover. It was about music. It's always about music. I'm a DJ. You know what I'm a DJ for? Not the gear, not the adulation, not the crowd. I'm the DJ because it's the music. I played guitar in my bedroom at 14 and 15. And now I'm playing music in my office, more or less my bedroom, in my late 20s. I'm saying it's the same thing. I'm still driven by the music.
Right.
I'm still going to skip my house if it's raining and Low Spark of High Heel Boys comes on and the windshield wipers catch the beat. I will drive to the next state to enjoy that moment, because it's a moment that will lock itself in my head for the rest of my life. You don't have to love music to be a DJ. You don't even have to really like music to be a really good DJ. But my God, you should have picked a better career. If you're not into music and you're a DJ, you're doing it for all the wrong reasons, and that's fine. That's fine, but understand at the root of it, we're expected to deliver a difference when it comes to music. If you're playing the top 200 from Mobile Beat at every gig, you'll get away with it, and no one will ever notice until they see another gig and they see me or Brian or Howie or John or somebody else who gets daring enough to say, I'm going outside of the box. I'm sorry, it's not a big deal, but when I did Little John into Luke Bryan, that was earth-shaking at that event. The bride came over and said, we had no idea you were that kind of a DJ. I'm like, what do you mean? Like the kind that just throws the whole event upside down and kills it. I'm like, what did you think?
Yeah.
Like, no, we knew you were a good DJ. We didn't know you were that good. Like, because that was so out of the realm of, at the time, 5 years ago, the possibility, or 4 years ago, of making any sense. You just played Little John and Luke Bryan and it worked. Because I'm a DJ. I can make peanut butter and chocolate taste good. I own Reese's.
I got two things, PB&J. DJ PB&J over there. First of all, funniest thing you said all night was, didn't you all just have the same Technics 1200s and mixing boards back in the day?
Yeah, I thought you kids did back then.
I love that.
You kids did back then.
Second thing I wanted to bring up, and again, I got brain damage, so sometimes I repeat myself, but I was curious if you and I have had the Sergio Mendes conversation.
About how amazing he is?
Well, we haven't had the Sergio Mendes conversation yet.
Okay. I doubt it then.
So something that really, we got a few minutes left I thought this would be a nice way to end it.
Can you do All My Dreams? That's Sergio Mendes, right?
All My Dreams.
All my dreams.
It's a Prince song.
It's not a Prince song.
Oh, there's a Prince song called All My Dreams that sounds a lot like that.
I'm either thinking of him or I'm thinking of who's the soap opera guy from General Hospital? That's who I think I'm thinking of.
Up Where We Belong?
No, that's Jennifer and Bill Medley.
Was that?
Oh no, it's Joe Cocker and
Jennifer.
Not Warren's, but Warren.
What the hell's her name? They got me guessing it now. I can't remember her name now.
She's the yacht rock girl.
Jennifer Warren.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'll look it up.
It's Jennifer Warren.
Page 632.
Diane Warren's the songwriter. That's
Diane Warren. That's
right.
it.
So Jennifer Warren is the singer.
Yeah.
What I was gonna say was, and this kind of inspired me to do the videos that I did.
I like Sergio Mendes though.
So right. You know who DJ Functional is?
I don't think so.
This guy, he's pretty cool. He's a YouTuber. He's been around for a long time. He is the authority.
I don't have YouTube
on samples. He's like the sample junkie. This guy's amazing. He's a great DJ. He's in Florida. And I've been watching him. He's been around almost as long as I've been around on YouTube. He's an old timer. He's been around.
Is he on bath salts? He might be on bath salts.
I don't think he is.
But
anyway, so he's been doing this music challenge thing on his personal Facebook page where he'll say this song versus that song. And the two songs that he suggested were let's see, Jeffrey Osborne on the
does he stand with palm trees behind him?
I don't know.
Because there's a guy, I think it's Florida, that I've seen do this where he does like mashups.
No, I don't.
Oh, different guy then. Okay,
anyway,
sorry.
No, this guy's my age or older. He's
no, this guy's like in his
legit.
40s. Yeah.
No, this guy's in his 50s. He's very legit.
Okay.
Anyway, so he does this like one song versus the next song. Some of them are ridiculous, like stuff that you could never like pick your favorite child, like "Sweet Dreams" by the Eurythmics versus "Human League." Don't you want me? Don't make me. Choose.
Yeah, that's
don't make
not
me
fair.
choose.
Yeah, it's not fair.
But he brought up Jeffrey Osborne on "The Wings of Love" versus Sergio Mendes, "Never Gonna Let You Go," and I'm like, well, this is easy. It's Sergio Mendes.
Yeah, sir, that's a good track.
And the reason that I knew this not only because I've always liked the song, but up until maybe about the last 6 months, I never knew why I liked the song. And I'm that guy. There's a reason I like music.
Yeah, it's the instrumentation or the writer or something probably.
Rick Beato did a video on this. No,
yes.
You know who Rick Beato is?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Rick Beato, who's a really good musician. He's a producer. He's
Big
a
producer.
player.
Yeah.
He said when he was in college, his friend, like a junior in college, his friend said, "Hey, I got a gig for us this summer. We got 4 weeks where we're playing like for local parks in Rochester, New York. I believe it was Rochester, New York." And it's like, oh, this should be easy. We're just going to play pop songs for like kids, like 8 through 12-year-olds. So they go to like the first, I guess, rehearsal or whatever, which is the day of the first gig. And one of the girls there says, "I want you to play the number one song in America right now. It's called Never Gonna Let You Go, Sergio Mendes." So they listen to the song. I'm like, no problem. They start playing it. And much like the Scritti Politti Perfect Way, it's got some of the weirdest chord changes in it.
Yeah.
And he said, this is by far the most complex pop song of all time. It doesn't
now that you say all this, I think I've seen the video. Yeah.
I've seen the video.
Yeah.
You're right.
And that's what got me thinking about what I like about music.
You like the complexity of it.
I don't like, I am not into super complex things, but I like interesting key changes, and I like dramatic key changes.
Right.
I like drama in music.
You like major to minor stuff. Other people just like 1-4-5, just
exactly.
Like the beat's steady, everything's good.
Yeah,
and you know what? And I'll tell you right now, the songs, just like you, I'm very driven by. It should go da 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 da, and it suddenly goes da da da, and you're like, whoa, what was that? It piques your interest, and now you start to listen deeper. Because I told Michelle, I'm like, you're not listening deep. What is that supposed to mean? I'm like, well, because you're now listening for the nuances of the song. Like, you ever drive and listen to a song and you really focus on the left channel versus the right, and you suddenly hear things you didn't hear? Like, how many times do you watch a video where they show behind that song and they're at the mixing board and they're playing the 35 things that are going on at once, and you're like, oh my God, I never noticed that.
Well, it's those dramatic chord changes that have influenced my mixing as a DJ. Those are the things I think about.
Would you say you're a harmonic mixer?
No. Not always.
You
Not
play
always.
bass, so I know you know enough music. Do you consciously mix? So you consciously mix like it's a bass?
No, not always. Sometimes I break the rules, and that's my thing. I don't have rules like that.
So sometimes you're Frank Zappa, but most times you're Air Supply.
I'm doing what's feeling right. I'm doing whatever that happens to be. That's what I'm going to do. And I got to wrap this show because my ride's here.
Okay. So next week we're going to try to mix like we're Captain Beefheart, but we're actually Richard Marx.
Exactly.
All right.
And if for all of you under 80, you can go look up Captain Beefheart.
I'm not lying to you. Dude's here. I got to go, man.
All right. Oh, yeah, he's right there.
All right.
Hi, Uber driver.
Well, that's what he's doing tonight.
Yep.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for rolling with my riffing tonight. I think it was a pretty good show.
It was fun.
I don't think John's going to fire us this time.
I don't. No. Well, my contract isn't up yet.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Ira Goldblatt, my new attorney, because I fired Izzy Itzkowitz.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. His best friend, though, Ira Goldblatt, who's in the same agency, Itzkowitz Goldblatt, he's now representing me. So we got to renegotiate with John.
Well,
There's money in them there hills. That's all he said.
I was feeling good about the show until he started talking again.
He just said there's money in them there hills.
I'm sorry I can't stick around for the after party this time, kids, but thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next week.
Stay well.